This invitation for a dialogue that transcends borders and regions provides a unique opportunity to start a new narrative and discourse on how our societies are constituted and developed. We welcome the opportunity for this dialogue with you as the politicians and government officials, because many of us feel that the discussion about Europe and the future membership of the Western Balkan countries in Europe, in the European Union, is all too often dominated by technocratic discussions about standards, rather than paying attention to the emotional inclusion of the citizens whose associations can form the most important partners, but also adversaries for governments in their struggle to build a Europe that holds together and that is resilient in the face of mounting crisis as we see it today. The refugee crisis unfolding around us has shown how professional and quick civil society organizations can be in their response to emergency needs, in their capacity to organize and to mobilize, and in their capability to point out problems and bring them to the attention of the public.
I think we all know that civil society plays a very important role as a place for debate and exchange of ideas, but I think it also passes messages from the citizens to their elected leaders. And as I can tell you from my own perspective as a member of government, this is not always very pleasant, but it is important and it is vital for a democracy. I think to reach this goal of having a civil society that plays a vital role on the Western Balkans, both sides, governments and also civil society, need to jump over their shadows. Civil society should do more to stop regarding governments per se as their enemies. And I think governments should accept that they sometimes need to be challenged. I think both should see each other as necessary partners in a modern democracy. And I hope that this development will happen also on the Western Balkans in the future. And I hope that this event is also a next step in this direction.
We have to stand up with, and we have to stand up for the weaker and the rightless human beings in our society. Those who are so mad to believe they can change the world into better are indeed those who are doing it, and we have many among us tonight.
So, can we really talk about the rule of law if there is ever existing gap between legal alignment and the incorporation of women's rights standards into the policy frameworks and practices of law enforcement and judiciary? The issue of women's rights and gender-based violence is an issue of human rights. It's not a women issue. We heard that many times. And it really affects society as a whole. There is no social progress without the emancipation of women. Therefore, we request a close screening of statutes of women's rights and also case law by our government, but also the firm insisting of the EU on tangible results in this area, which are really crucial and can truly make a difference.
My question to you, is it better to spend millions or maybe billions of euro per month in support for these migrants, in asylum holding tanks, while figuring out how to ship them back at 3 in the morning, or to invest these millions or billions in job creation in their origin of country? There are urgent and concrete steps to be taken. Develop clear and implementable strategies for Roma and other minorities, and treat a promise as promise. A strategy without budget is a broken promise. Create incentives to increase employment. Invest in prevention of school leaving and improving the quality of education.
What is the recipe for success of civic activism? Go on the field and check it. It's enough. And we need to start make changes. You need to listen to us, and we are going to tell you what to do. Do not ever, no more decisions about us without us. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, there are already 50 active groups all over the country. It doesn't matter it's Serbs Republic or Federation. We are all doing things together. And that is the message what we want to send. We are working together. We want to be citizens, not Muslims, not Serbs, not Croatians. We want to be citizens with their rights.
We have a dream where people with disabilities are fully integrated in the society. And as a main result of decentralization, civil sector in Pančevo has become a major partner in the development of the city in all areas. And we hope that civil sector will become the partner in all levels of government in planning the development of all segments of society. And our recommendation as a path that we see as the improvement of the society is a continuous education within a system.
Well, the boy's owner took the money and went to get a so-called prostitute for the evening. And the girl, well, she was never asked.
Not to forget, people we exist for are live human beings as all of us here, just with different labels that are attached to their personalities. Name it as victims of trafficking, as undocumented migrants or refugees. They haven't chosen their labels. They were just on the wrong place at wrong time.
Civil society, activism, I think is one of the essences of democracy. But without listening to citizens, societies cannot develop together, governments, parliaments, citizens, the ownership of a state, the ownership of that saying it's ours. So when NGOs speak up publicly, when they put formal demands, when they make governments accountable, also like in the fight against corruption, it's essential. And even if we don't like it, some of us politicians, for our country's sake, for Europe's sake, listening and working together is really important. So I hope processes like this will continue and that criticism will be seen as something that is enriching and that will help us together to pave the way to become a Europe, including Western Balkan countries, as being together in the common European Union.
So it's a unique evening that we have a chance to have this dialogue between the elected officials of our countries and representatives of a civil society. Let's make this fast and furious, as the movie says. Try and be as concise as we can, as punchy as we can, and of course respecting the rules of the game.
Regarding our economic situation, I'll be as brief as it is possible, not furious. I'm pretty much optimistic on our economic reforms and the results of our economic reforms. What I'm bothered with is whether we'll be able to preserve regional stability, and once again I'm profoundly grateful to my friend Edi Rama, because at least I see no tensions at all between Serbia and Albania.
Okay, it seems Alexander made the fast part, I'm going to make the furious part. We're very happy to meet with the civil society, but we have not waited to come to Vienna to do it. So we are doing it all the time, in daily basis, since long years. And I would happily see us and the civil society together to not tell each other in Vienna what one is doing better or worse, but what we together should tell you, him, the EU, what they can do better for us. So we are now in a moment that we have really to understand one thing. Or we are in it all together, or we can't make it. The Balkans need a strategic approach from Europe. And if politically, we have a strategic approach that has started to be visible 1 year ago. Now, we need it financially.
When you look at the enlargement strategy and 3 pillars, which is rule of law, economic governance, and the reform of the public administration, there's still, I mean, a huge number of things we need to work out. There are a lot of things on our table, a lot of things on our menu, and I think we need to obviously work it out together in the region. As not only is there experience we can share and we can exchange, but there's also the only viable approach is through regional cooperation.
You see, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, you will very hardly find anything that we will all agree on in Sarajevo, Mostar, and Banja Luka. There's one thing you will find. When you ask people if they are happy, if they are satisfied, how they live, they will tell you all the same. 20 years after the war, we expected to live much better. We expected to have better salaries, to have better pensions, to travel more, to be more independent, to be more free in every possible way. I think the biggest problem of the region and biggest problem of my country is the corruption. And I think this can be an example where we and civic society, NGOs, can work together.
I would like to stress that we are all Europeans, and many of us are already members of the European Union, and the others will join us sooner or later. But I think it's important to remind all of us that we are Europeans, and that Europe, the European Union, is a project which is not only an economic project, it's a value community, if you like. And sometimes I have the feeling Union is a little bit seen like a cash delivery machine or an insurance company or a saving bank, something like that. It's more.
I want to talk about the employment issue. It's one of the most important, most pressing issues in the Balkan countries. It needs, as you, Minister, mentioned, a regional approach. It needs a long-term vision and a strategic approach. Or we have not seen until now such a policy or country paper or joint strategy. It's something that should be tackled or can be tackled better, quoting you again, in a regional level.
Youth unemployment is one of the key issues that we need to address, whether it's through vocational education training, whether it's through different policies aimed at improving their position for employment. But one of the risks we take during that is that we sometimes see education as only an output of employable workforce. And education is not only that. It's a good side effect from it, but it relies on much more, and we try to aspire for gaining knowledge, whether through quality internships, whether through research work, whether entrepreneurship, innovation, and so on. But a quality education system also manages to build active citizens, and our young people are less and less of that. They don't have time to wait, leaving countries in search for better futures and becoming socially excluded citizens within their own countries, unaware of their rights, losing faith within institutions, losing faith within themselves. So my question would be, shortly, if any of you feel that you have a good model ensuring student, pupil participation within the educational institutions and feel confident that we can follow your lead, please share it.
Despite of the fact that Kosovo and Serbia have reached an agreement about the diplomas, we still see Albanians and Serbians, both from Kosovo and from Serbia, having the same problems getting the recognition of these documents of the education that they have already gotten. So it's still an obstacle for those who still have already have diplomas to find proper jobs and to be in a situation not to look for some other solution outside of Kosovo and or Serbia.
Government might have power until masses rise. When masses rise, then the masses take over, and that's, they can bring down an empire. Now, one of the things that we have experienced is that we can push them to hear us. And so for about a year and a half, we've worked day and night. They have finally managed to hear us. It's just that they're not doing anything. We need what they've heard to be translated into actions. It's not enough that they keep promising stuff and things keep getting worse. We, the people, I don't think we've got that many problems. I think our politicians have a lot more problems. We are quite clear that we want justice, education, social security, and I think above all, we really want dignity back. I think we're sick and tired of being seen by the whole Europe as the insane cousin nobody wants to invite to dinner.
A significant issue must be, and significant commitment must be done by the governments across the region in order to create an environment that is supporting free journalism, that is supporting, not only that, but is supporting the citizen who is not afraid to report the corruption. And the corruption, as we said, is the common and extremely important problem across the region. And I must say that so far our experience is that the government are not doing enough. We are not making an example that the life of the investigative journalist is not cheap. We are not making an example that the one who killed the journalist, the one who beat the journalist, the one who destroyed the property of the media network will be sanctioned.
First of all, considering government-media relationship, I believe everything starts with ownership. And the starting point is that the government right now must be excluded from many media of those, let me say, World Service type, like BBC has done what BBC World Service last year. Right now, in the situation where media, especially printed media, ownership structure in Serbia is partly or even completely unknown, even in the case of some old and daily newspapers, influential every step toward transparent funding, for me right now seems impossible. With a poor circulation, poor advertisement, or without advertisement at all, and the price between 20 or 30% for a daily newspaper and around, let's say, I don't know, 1.5 euros for a weekly magazine, it is obvious that they all faced with more or less serious but non-transparent funding.
And I would like to see much more, or let's say some representatives of civil society to be active in political life in the way to candidate in elections or for elections and to become members of parliament, maybe members of government. If they are not satisfied with the existing political parties, feel free to found new ones.
I've had the chance to be on both sides. I've been in civil society, hating to be in a diameter of 100 meters with any politician, and then I've become, of course,
it's called the
worse.
revolving door.
I've gotten worse because I've started to do politics. Civil society has always the conviction that can fix the government. I don't think the government should fix civil society.
I was not a member of civil society like Eddie. Not at all, yeah, which was very obvious. Yes, but I'm ready to listen to everybody. Recently, I started to speak to all these people in our country, and I'm not ashamed to say that I learned something from them. I hope that I will learn much more. And I'm profoundly grateful to those people because of their engagement on that migrant crisis. I'm very proud to say that Serbia treated those refugees, I don't like that word, migrants, much better than some EU countries. And as you can see, I can say that very freely here. Comparing to at least 2 EU countries, we didn't beat those guys. There were no tear gases in Serbia. We registered more than 90% of those people in our country. And you don't see any attacks on them in our country, which is not the case in some EU countries, speaking about values.